Hi, Tamal. Thanks for coming on the show again.
Thank you.
Now, this week's column was interesting because it covers a part of the digital economy. And the part that it covers, you talk about, is the P2P lending space in India and how some actors have been taking advantage of it. Can you explain in simple terms what these are and how it works?
Well, it's a P2P lending. It's just offering a platform where you and me, I have money to lend, and you want to borrow. So instead of going to a bank or non-banking finance company, you come to this platform. And the P2P company is a matchmaker. Its responsibility is to see your credit score, whether it's worth giving, and accordingly the interest rate is fixed. It could be as high as 18 to 20% or as low as 10 to 12%. Particularly the MSME segment can get benefit out of it. It's basically a matchmaking platform. And of course, there are rules how much you can lend to one particular person, overall how much one can lend, and similarly how much one can borrow. So this is an alternate channel. Reserve Bank of India, of course, gone deep into it and framed the guidelines, even though it has not taken off in a big way. But there are 25 odd licenses. At least two of them have surrendered, I understand. At least one of them is not doing business anymore. So it's not a great success story as such. But the column is all about, as you said, it's about how some of the players are misusing and they don't care about the norms.
What you also highlight in your column is that what is happening in India is not actually P2P lending because you highlight a pooling of money. Can you explain what that is exactly?
Exactly, Ishan, that's what I said. Ishan and Tamal. Ishan is let me make you a lender. Ishan is a lender and Tamal is a borrower, and P2P platform gives the matching ground. But what's happening here is this: no, some of the P2P players are asking Ishan to give the money, and Ishan can get out of any time Ishan wants, even 5 or 6 days. Ishan will get certain interest. So their interest is offered for different maturities up to. That's the catch here, because Reserve Bank of India does not allow you to offer any guaranteed returns. So they are escaping. They are meeting the not the spirit but the letter, saying up to X% you can. So essentially, what is happening? Ishan does not know where his money is going. Ishan's money is, and along with XYZ, a pool is created, and it's more like in mutual fund what you call a liquid fund, which invest in short-term instruments up to 90 days. So here you can get out at any time and get your money out plus the interest. So that's one misuse. Second is offering certain percentage, up to certain percentage. It's working like as a bank FD. So instead of keeping a bank, you keep it with me. And third is, of course, there are certain entities who are renting out the platform to others who do not have the license to do the P2P. So what's happening is, certain players, I would not name them, they have access to data for individual credit cards, debit cards, as well as merchants. So they know who wants money and who has money, and they are passing on the data to this particular P2P platform, and there the transactions are taking place. So in a sense, certain P2P players are renting out their licenses to unlicensed players. So in multiple ways, I mean, what it is it a liquid fund? Is it a collective investment scheme? Is it a bank FD? What is happening?
Now, I get your point. Now, one question was, how far do RBI's digital lending rules go in addressing some of these issues now?
Yeah, the latest norm that Reserve Bank of India has come out does address some of them. I would like to believe the Reserve Bank of India is well aware of what's happening in the P2P. Now, instead of addressing P2P per se in that particular sector, it has come out with the normal, omnibus norms, which will to some extent address certain issues, certain concerns what's happening in P2P. Because the key to Reserve Bank of India new norm is this: at least in one leg has to be a regulated entity. So that will address many of the malpractices or the violation of rules, not only in P2P, even in other segments happening, and the frauds that's happening.
Now, one question that has been troubling me is RBI the appropriate regulator here, or do we need a specialized regulator with rules being set by the central bank? Given some other countries have done this model.
Exactly, this is what I mean. The evolving scenario is the Bank of India competent enough? That's what people are questioning. I think the jury is still out. Reserve Bank of India, it's trying its best to equip itself. Now, whether you need a separate regulator, I mean, in one way of saying it, why not? And other way of saying it, because it's a part of the financial system, Reserve Bank of India can continue to. In fact, if you see the globally, there are a lot of, if you compare Indian central bank with the global central bank, there are the Indian central bank is a multitasker. Lots of things which it does, which globally the central banks do not do. After, of course, constitution of MPC under the new norm, it's now a flexible inflation targeter central bank. Should it hive off its role from managing the digital world? That's the question I think Reserve Bank of India needs to ask itself. But even if that happens, it can't happen overnight.
Because we are discussing digital transactions, I would like to take into the other part of digital transactions, which is UPI and the issue of MDR. Now, RBI recently came out with a discussion paper and it's open to public opinion. On that, it discussed the MDR issue, the convenience fee and surcharges issue, but the government came out immediately and said that UPI is a digital good. What do you make of the whole issue?
It's pretty clear that government and RBI are not on the same page. If you see Reserve Bank of India's entire discussion paper, which has raised 40 questions, very non-committal. It's leaving everything to us and asking for feedback. And the deadline for giving the feedback was 3rd October. But the government of India did not lose any time. It's immediately issued. I mean, there are 2 tweets essentially saying that it's for the growth of digital world. It should not, UPI should not be subject to MDR. MDR is the merchant discount rate. Subsidy Raj that has happened in different segments. That's prevalent here now also. But the kind of money which the banks have been given as a compensation for this is certainly not enough.
Now, because you've talked about public sector banks, one of the papers in RBI's bulletins by RBI researchers, which RBI had to give a clarification on later, talked about the gradual approach to privatization and not a big bang approach. They also talked about how the social objectives also need to be kept in mind. What do you make of that approach?
No, I guess it's more a media made because Reserve Bank of India's approach is not different from what the government of India's approach is. Because 2021 February, Finance Minister announced privatization of 2 banks, and it's not yet happened. The process is still on. The amendment to the act has not yet happened. So the government itself believes in a gradual approach. So there's nothing new about Reserve Bank of India, what RBI had said. It will be a gradual approach. I think it will start with. So probably the way forward is this: yes, you experiment with 2, and then you grow the numbers. Right now we have 12 public sector banks. Probably you go to up to 6 or 8, but you leave 4 or half a dozen for the social purpose. They'll be owned by the government, but don't expect them to be a profitable organization.
Got your point. Thank you. Thanks a lot for coming on the show. Until next time, thank you again.
Thanks, Dishan.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.
I am the blue of the limitless sky. I am the inspiration that led success soar high. I will achieve, I will fly high.
I'm backed by the nation's trusted bank, SBI, the banker to every Indian.